Tonight, I want to tell you about a civilization that shouldn't exist. Or rather, shouldn't have existed the way it did. A place where over 5 million people lived in perfect harmony for nearly 1,000 years, where there were no weapons of war, no palaces, no temples to cruel gods demanding sacrifice, no signs of conquest or slavery or the violence that marked almost every other ancient society. And then one day they simply left no invasion, no war, no catastrophic collapse. Just a slow, quiet fading, like a candle burning down to nothing, leaving behind cities so advanced, so peaceful, so unlike anything else in the ancient world that archaeologists still can't quite believe what they found. The Indus Valley Civilization, the Harappan people, a culture that thrived 4,500 years ago and then vanished so completely that we forgot they ever existed. Until 100 years ago, when we stumbled upon their ruins and discovered something that challenges everything we thought we knew about human nature. Tonight, we're going there to walk the streets of Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa, to meet the people who built something extraordinary and then let it go, to understand why their story is so hauntingly beautiful and why their disappearance, their gentle vanishing, might be the most profound mystery in all of human history. But first, let's prepare you for the journey. Find your most comfortable position. This is important, because we're about to travel not just across space, but across nearly 5,000 years of time. Your body needs to feel safe, supported, completely at ease. So adjust yourself now. Shift your pillow. Pull your blanket closer. Let yourself settle like ancient sediment at the bottom of a river, layer upon layer of rest. Good. Now, dim the lights around you if you haven't already. The Indus people lived by oil lamp and starlight, by gentle illumination that didn't fight against the natural rhythms of darkness. So create that atmosphere for yourself. Let the harsh modern world fade. Let the gentle shadows welcome you. Take a deep breath with me. In through your nose, filling your lungs with this moment, with curiosity, with the strange comfort of knowing that civilizations rise and fall, and we all return to dust eventually, and out through your mouth, releasing the need to understand everything, releasing the fear of endings, releasing into the mystery. Again, in and out. There's something deeply soothing about vanished civilizations, isn't there? They remind us that nothing lasts forever, that even our greatest works will one day be buried under sand and silence. And somehow, instead of being frightening, this truth is peaceful, liberating, a permission to let go, to not grasp so tightly, to simply be here for our moment and then gracefully fade. The Indus people understood this, I think, and tonight, their gentle wisdom might help you rest. So settle in now. Let your breathing slow. Let your muscles release. We have all night to explore this mystery. And by the end, I think you'll find that their disappearance isn't sad at all. It's one of the most beautiful stories ever told about what it means to be human. Let's begin our journey to the civilization that vanished without a trace. The year is 1924. We're in what is now Pakistan, in the Sindh province, in a landscape of scrubland and intense heat where the Indus River flows broad and slow through ancient floodplains. An archaeologist named John Marshall is standing in a trench, holding something in his hands that shouldn't exist. A small stone seal, perfectly carved, showing a humped bull in a script that no one can read. A script that no one has seen before, from a civilization that no one knew existed. He's been digging here for 2 years, and with each shovelful of earth removed, the mystery deepens. There are brick streets down there, perfectly straight, laid out in a grid pattern. There are buildings constructed with a precision that rivals anything from Rome or Greece. There's a drainage system, for God's sake, more sophisticated than what most of Europe had in the Middle Ages. And nobody knows who built it. Nobody knows what happened to them. Let me take you there now. Not to 1924, but further back, to the city in its prime, perhaps 2600 BCE, when Mohenjo-Daro was one of the largest cities on Earth. Can you see it? Can you imagine yourself standing at the entrance to the city as the sun rises over the Indus River? The first thing that strikes you is the order, the overwhelming, almost unsettling order of everything. The streets are perfectly straight, aligned to the cardinal directions. The buildings are made of standardized baked bricks, each one exactly the same size, a ratio they seem to have used everywhere, a commitment to consistency that speaks of a culture obsessed with harmony and precision. There are no city walls in the defensive sense, no fortifications against enemies, just a raised platform that protects the city from flooding, from the river that gives life but can also take it away. You walk down the main avenue, and your feet touch bricks that were laid with such care, such attention, that they survived 4,500 years. The street is wide enough for carts to pass each other easily, and on either side, houses rise 2 and sometimes 3 stories high. But here's what's strange, what makes archaeologists still shake their heads in wonder. The houses are all roughly the same size. Yes, some are larger than others, but there's no palace, no massive temple complex, no monument to a god, king, or pharaoh, or emperor. Everyone, it seems, lived in relative equality. Let's enter one of these houses. A typical home belonging to a typical family of this extraordinary civilization. You step through a doorway from the street, but you don't immediately enter the main living space. There's a vestibule, a transition area, a buffer between the public world and the private home. The Indus people understood something about boundaries, about the need for spaces between. Beyond the vestibule, you find yourself in a central courtyard open to the sky. Most of the house is light, and air comes from here, from this internal space rather than from windows facing the street. The Indus people valued privacy, valued the sense of protected inner world. Around the courtyard, rooms open through carefully made doorways. There's a main living area with a raised platform for sitting or sleeping. There's a storage area with large ceramic jars for grain and water. There's a bathing area, and this is remarkable, with a brick floor that slopes slightly toward a drain that connects to the city's sophisticated sewage system. Yes, a sewage system. In 2600 BC, when most of humanity was still figuring out basic agriculture, these people had covered drains running beneath every street, carrying waste away from the city, keeping everything clean and ordered and healthy. You can see the drain in the corner of the bathing area, carefully constructed, perfectly functional 4,500 years later. The bricks around it are worn smooth from water flowing over them for decades, maybe centuries. Someone lived here, a real person with a real life, with worries and joys and dreams just like yours. Someone who bathed in this exact spot, who felt the cool water on their skin in the heat of the day, who appreciated the simple luxury of cleanliness and order. Let's meet them. Let's imagine a person who lived in this house. We'll call her the bead maker, because among the artifacts archaeologists have found are thousands of beautifully crafted beads, carnelian and steatite and faience, some so perfectly drilled that modern jewelers marvel at the skill required to create them. She's in her 30s. Perhaps her hands are stained from the dyes and materials she works with. Her fingers are callous in specific places from holding tiny beads and drilling holes with bow drill, a technique requiring such precision and patience that each bead might take hours to complete. It's morning. The heat hasn't yet built to its afternoon intensity, and she's sitting in the courtyard of her home, working. Around her, the city is waking up. She can hear the sounds of her neighbors, the murmur of voices, the laughter of children, the rhythmic sound of someone beating fabric to clean it. There's peace in these sounds, not the desperate, vigilant peace of people living under threat, but genuine tranquility, because in this civilization, there's something remarkable, an almost complete absence of violence. Archaeologists have excavated hundreds of sites from the Indus Valley civilization. They found thousands of artifacts. But weapons of war? Almost none. Depictions of battles or conquests? None. Evidence of slavery or class warfare or the violent oppression of populations? Nothing. It's so unusual, so unlike every other ancient civilization, that some scholars initially refuse to believe it. There must be weapons somewhere. There must be evidence of war. How could a civilization of 5 million people, spread across an area larger than Western Europe, exist without armies and conquest? But the evidence doesn't lie. Or rather, the absence of evidence speaks volumes. The Indus people somehow built a peaceful civilization for 1,000 years. The bead maker sets down her work for a moment and walks to the large ceramic jar in the storage room. She dips a copper cup into the cool water inside and drinks. The water tastes of earth and clay, familiar and good. She's thinking about her daughter, who's 7 years old and showing signs of being even more skilled at bead making than her mother. The girl has patience, has the ability to focus on tiny detail for hours. She'll make beautiful things in her life. The bead maker is also thinking about the new drainage system being installed in the street outside. The city planners have decided that section needs upgrading. And for the past week, workers have been carefully removing old bricks and laying new ones, maintaining the perfect grade that allows water to flow smoothly away. This attention to infrastructure, to the mundane but essential systems that keep a city healthy. This too is characteristic of the Indus civilization. They care about clean water and proper sanitation in ways that wouldn't be seen again for thousands of years. She doesn't know that her civilization is approaching its end, doesn't know that within a few generations, this city will be gradually abandoned. These streets will fall silent. This house will slowly fill with wind-blown sand until nothing remains but ruins buried beneath earth and time. She just knows that today is a good day. The weather is pleasant. She has work to do. Her family is healthy. The city is functioning as it always has, with order and cleanliness, and that particular peace that comes from a society organized around cooperation rather than conquest. And in this moment, in this perfect, ordinary morning nearly 5,000 years ago, she is content. She returns to her courtyard and picks up her work again, unaware that she's part of one of history's greatest mysteries, one of humanity's most beautiful and most baffling experiments in living together. This is what the archaeologists found when they unearthed Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa and the dozens of other Indus Valley sites. Not temples to war gods, not palaces of tyrants, not monuments to individual power, just houses, just streets, just the infrastructure of daily life, built with extraordinary care, maintained for centuries, abandoned without violence or destruction. They found a civilization that valued order over chaos, cooperation over competition, the collective good over individual glory. And then it vanished. The question that haunts every scholar who studies this culture is simple and profound. Why? What happened? How does a civilization of millions simply fade away without war, without conquest, without even a clear record of decline? Tonight, we're going to explore that mystery, not to solve it, because it remains unsolved, may always remain unsolved, but to understand what it might teach us about endings, about letting go, about the strange grace of fading rather than fighting. To understand why the disappearance of the Indus Valley civilization is so mysterious, you first need to understand how extraordinary their daily life was, how different from almost every other ancient culture we know. So, let's spend a day in Mohenjo-Daro. Let's walk through the city, meet its people, see how they lived when their civilization was at its peak. It's mid-morning now. The bead maker has been working for several hours, and she decides to take a break, to walk to the Great Bath, one of the most remarkable structures in the entire Indus Valley civilization. Picture yourself walking beside her through the streets. The sun is climbing higher and the heat is building, but the streets are designed to catch any breeze that comes off the river. The buildings provide shade. The city planners thought about comfort, about how people would actually live in this space. You pass other people going about their business. A merchant carrying a basket of grain, a woman with a child on her hip, a group of workers hauling bricks for some construction project. Everyone is dressed similarly. Simple cotton garments, practical and comfortable in the heat. There's no ostentation, no obvious markers of extreme wealth or poverty. And here's something that archaeologists notice. The people are healthy. Analysis of skeletal remains shows good nutrition, strong bones, dental health better than many populations for thousands of years after. This was a society that fed its people well, that shared resources in ways that kept everyone reasonably healthy. The bead maker greets a neighbor, not with words we could understand, because the Indus script has never been deciphered, remains one of the great linguistic mysteries. But with a gesture, a smile, the universal language of friendly recognition, they continue on together toward the great bath. And now you see it, a massive structure built of perfectly fitted bricks, with steps leading down into a pool of water roughly 40 feet long and 20 feet wide. The bottom of the pool is sealed with bitumen to make it watertight. The walls are thick, carefully constructed, built to last for generations. This isn't just for bathing. This is a ceremonial space, a public place of ritual cleansing, of community gathering. The Indus people valued cleanliness to an almost spiritual degree. Not cleanliness as we might think of it today, as a purely practical matter, but cleanliness as a form of order, of harmony, of rightness with the world. The bead maker descends the steps into the water. It's cool and clear, fed from a well, drained through carefully constructed channels. Other people are here too, bathing, talking quietly, performing whatever rituals or prayers or simple moment of reflection they need. There's something deeply peaceful about this space. The water, the shade, the sense of entering a liminal place between the mundane world of work and something more sacred, more intentional. She stays for perhaps 20 minutes, enjoying the coolness, the sense of washing away not just physical dirt, but the mental clutter of the morning. Then she emerges, lets the hot air dry her skin, and continues through the city. You follow her to the marketplace. The market is set up in a large open area near the river. There are no permanent shops, just temporary stalls and blankets spread on the ground where merchants display their goods. Here you can see the extent of the Indus trading network, which was vast, reaching all the way to Mesopotamia and possibly beyond. There are shells from the coast, lapis lazuli from Afghanistan, copper and tin to make bronze, exotic woods, precious stones. But there's also local produce, grain and vegetables and fruit, pottery of standardized shapes and sizes, textiles woven from cotton. The Indus people were among the first in the world to cultivate cotton and weave it into fabric. The bead maker is looking for a specific type of stone for her work. She finds a merchant who has what she needs, and they negotiate, not with coins. The Indus civilization didn't use money as we know it. Instead, they had a sophisticated system of weights and measures, perfectly standardized across the entire civilization. The merchant has a set of stone weights in precise ratios. 1 unit, 2 units, for units, 8 units, and so on. He weighs out the stones the bead maker wants, and she offers in exchange some of her finished beads, which he can trade elsewhere. It's a barter system, but highly organized, efficient, based on mutual trust and standardized measurements. No haggling, no heated argument, just a calm transaction between two people who trust the system they're part of. And this trust, this social cohesion, this appears throughout the Indus civilization. They cooperated on a scale that seems almost impossible. They maintain standardized weights and measures across an area larger than ancient Egypt. They build according to consistent proportions and ratios. They shared resources in ways that kept everyone reasonably prosperous. How? Without a strong, centralized government? Without a god king or emperor to enforce order? We don't know, but somehow they did it. For 1,000 years, they maintained this peaceful, cooperative, remarkably egalitarian society. The bead maker returns home in the afternoon heat. The streets are quieter now, most people taking shelter from the sun. She prepares a simple meal, flatbread made from wheat, a stew of lentils and vegetables, some yogurt and fruit. Her daughter helps her, learning not just the tasks but the rhythms of daily life in this place. How to grind grain, how to tend the cooking fire, how to manage water resources carefully because water, even with the great Indus River nearby, is precious and must be respected. After eating, they rest during the hottest part of the day. The house stays relatively cool because of its thick walls and the courtyard design that allows hot air to rise and escape, while drawing cooler air from below. The bead maker drifts into sleep, and her mind wanders through a dream we'll never know. But perhaps she dreams of beads, of the patterns she creates, of the satisfaction of making something beautiful and useful. She doesn't dream of war, doesn't have nightmares of invasion or conquest or violent death, because those things aren't part of her world, aren't lurking in the collective consciousness of her culture the way they were in almost every other ancient civilization. She sleeps peacefully in a peaceful city, in a peaceful civilization that will not last, that is even now approaching the beginning of its end, though no one yet knows it. This was daily life in the Indus Valley, ordered, cooperative, peaceful, focused on practical matters of sanitation and trade and the maintenance of infrastructure, oriented around community rather than individual power, remarkably egalitarian for its time. And this is what makes the disappearance so haunting, because if the civilization had been destroyed by war, by conquest, by some violent catastrophe, we would understand. That's the pattern we're familiar with. That's how most ancient civilizations ended. But the Indus civilization didn't end that way. It simply faded, slowly, over generations. People gradually leaving the cities. The careful maintenance of streets and drains and buildings gradually ceasing. The population dispersing into smaller settlements, simpler lives, eventually melting back into the general population of the subcontinent. No massacre, no burning, no conquest, just a slow, quiet letting go. Why? What could cause an entire civilization to simply walk away from everything they built? Let's explore the theories, the possibilities, the mystery. When archaeologists first discovered the Indus Valley civilization, they looked for the usual signs of collapse: invasion, warfare, natural disaster, something sudden and catastrophic that would explain why these magnificent cities were abandoned. But the evidence didn't support those theories. And as more sites were excavated, as more data accumulated, the mystery only deepened. So let me take you through what we know, what we suspect, and what we may never understand about how the civilization ended. Theory 1, climate change. Around 1900 BCE, something began to shift in the climate of the Indus Valley. The monsoon patterns that had brought reliable rain for millennia started to weaken. The great Indus River, which had been the lifeblood of the civilization, may have begun to change its course or reduce its flow. Imagine you're the bead maker, but now it's 50 years later. You're old now, in your 80s, which is quite old for this time and place. You're sitting in your courtyard, watching your great-grandchildren play, and you notice things are different than when you were young. The river doesn't flood as predictably as it used to. Some years there's too little water. Other years it comes in unpredictable surges. The farmers are worried. Crop yields are declining. The city's population has been slowly decreasing as some families move away, seeking better opportunities in smaller settlements or different regions. But there's no panic, no desperation, just a gradual adaptation. a slow recognition that perhaps this place, which served your people so well for so long, is becoming less hospitable, that maybe it's time to move on. This is speculation, of course. We don't know if individuals experienced it this way, but the archaeological evidence suggests a gradual abandonment rather than a sudden exodus, people leaving bit by bit, generation by generation, as the environmental conditions slowly deteriorated. Theory 2. River changes and urban decline. The Indus River, like all great rivers, is dynamic. It shifts its course over time. Tributaries dry up. New channels form. For a civilization so dependent on the river for water, for transportation, for the rich alluvial soil that made agriculture possible, any significant change in the river system would be catastrophic. There's evidence that around the time of the civilization's decline, the river system was indeed changing. Some cities that had been on the riverbank found themselves miles from water. Others may have been flooded as the river shifted course. Picture Mohenjo-Daro slowly becoming less viable. The sophisticated drainage system still functions, but there's less water to drain. The wells are deeper than they used to be. The river trade that once brought prosperity is dwindling as the water levels drop, and the people, pragmatic and adaptable, begin to leave, not in a mass exodus, but gradually. The young move first, seeking opportunities elsewhere, then families follow. Then eventually even the elders, the keepers of tradition, recognize that this place is no longer what it was. They don't burn it, don't destroy it. They just walk away. Let it stand as a monument to what once was. Let time and wind and sand slowly reclaim it. There's something almost spiritual in this, isn't there? This willingness to let go, to not fight against the inevitable, to recognize when something has run its course, and to gracefully move on. Theory 3. Social transformation. But maybe the disappearance wasn't about environment at all. Maybe it was about choice, about a civilization that had always been different deciding to transform itself into something else entirely. Think about this. The Indus Valley civilization was urban, highly organized, dependent on complex systems of trade and infrastructure. But what if the people simply grew tired of that way of life? What if they chose, collectively and gradually, to return to simpler ways? There's evidence that as the cities declined, rural populations increased, that the people didn't disappear, they dispersed. They became farmers, pastoralists, small town dwellers. They maintained some of the traditions and technologies they developed, but let go of elaborate urban systems. Imagine the bead maker's great-great-grandchildren, living not in a city, but in a small village, still making beads, perhaps still maintaining some memory of the old ways, but no longer part of a vast, coordinated civilization, just living simply, quietly, in harmony with the land. Is this a collapse, or is it a transformation? A letting go of one way of life and an embracing of another? Western archaeology has tended to view the end of the Indus civilization as a failure, a decline, a tragedy. But maybe that's our bias. Maybe the Indus people didn't see it that way. Maybe they saw it as a natural evolution, a return to balance, a healthy letting go of structures that had grown too complex, too rigid, too demanding. Theory 4. The mystery remains. But here's the truth. We don't really know, and we may never know. The Indus script remains undeciphered, so we have no written records, no first-hand accounts. We only have what the archaeology tells us, and archaeology can only reveal so much. What we do know is this. Around 1900 BC, the great cities of the Indus Valley began to decline. Over the course of several centuries, they were gradually abandoned. The people dispersed. The sophisticated urban culture faded. By 1300 BCE, the civilization as we know it had ceased to exist. But it didn't end in flames, didn't end in conquest, didn't end in sudden catastrophe. It ended the way a day ends. Gradually, gently, with the light slowly fading until only darkness and stars remain. And there's something beautiful in that. Something that speaks to a different understanding of endings than we're used to. Most civilizations in history have ended violently. Rome fell to barbarian invasions. The Maya cities were abandoned amid warfare and environmental collapse. The Bronze Age civilizations of the Mediterranean were destroyed in a wave of conquest and fire. But the Indus Valley civilization, it seems to have simply let go, to have recognized when its time was passing, and to have faded gracefully rather than fighting desperately against the inevitable. There's wisdom in that, a wisdom we've largely lost in our modern world, where we try to sustain things long past their natural lifespan, where we fight against endings rather than accepting them with grace. The last person to leave Mohenjo-Daro, we don't know who they were, don't know when exactly they left, but imagine them for a moment, standing in the street where generations of their ancestors walked, looking at the houses, slowly filling with sand and silence. The Great Bath, empty now, its water stagnant or drained away. The marketplace, where no merchants gather anymore. Are they sad? Perhaps, but perhaps not. Perhaps they're simply ready to move on, ready for whatever comes next. Carry with them the skills and knowledge and values of their civilization, but letting go of the structures, the buildings, the systems that no longer serve. They walk away. The city stands empty behind them, and slowly, over centuries, the wind and rain and time reclaim it, bury it, hide it from human eyes for thousands of years, until archaeologists unearth it and marvel at what they find, at the sophistication, the peace, the order, at the civilization that thrived and then vanished, leaving behind a mystery that may never be fully solved. But maybe the mystery itself is the message. Maybe the lesson of the Indus Valley is that not everything needs to be preserved forever, that endings can be gentle, that letting go is sometimes the wisest choice. So what does this lost civilization, this culture that vanished 4,000 years ago, have to teach us today? I think it teaches us something we desperately need to learn in our modern world, where we cling so tightly to everything, where we fight against every ending, where we treat letting go as failure rather than as wisdom. The Indus people built something remarkable, something that worked, something that sustained millions of people in relative peace and prosperity for 1,000 years. And then, when conditions changed, when the rivers shifted and the climate altered and the old ways no longer served, they let it go. They didn't wage war trying to maintain what was passing, didn't enslave populations to rebuild what was fading, didn't cling desperately to a way of life that was no longer viable. They adapted, they transformed, they moved on. And there's something profoundly freeing in this understanding, isn't there? How much of your life are you spending trying to maintain things that are naturally coming to an end? Relationships that have run their course. Jobs that no longer serve you. Identities that you've outgrown. Ways of being that worked once but don't work anymore. The Indus people remind us that letting go is not failure. It's wisdom. It's the natural flow of things. It's accepting that everything has its season, and that trying to artificially extend that season only creates suffering. Imagine you're lying there now, carrying something heavy, some burden from your life, some situation that you know deep down is reaching its end, but that you're fighting to maintain. What if you could let it go the way the Indus people let go of their cities? Not with violence or drama or catastrophe, but with gentle acceptance, with grace, with the understanding that endings are as natural as beginnings, and that creating space for what's ending allows room for what's beginning. The Indus civilization ended, yes, but the people didn't disappear. They continued. They adapted. They took their skills and values and knowledge into new contexts, new lives, new ways of being. And you can do the same. Whatever is ending in your life right now, Whatever you're being called to release, you can let it go gently. You can walk away from what no longer serves without burning it down. You can honor what was while accepting what is. This is the wisdom of vanishing, of fading, of letting the sands of time cover what once was, trusting that whatever was truly valuable will be remembered, will be preserved in the patterns of who you become next. There's another lesson too, one that the Indus cities teach through their very structure. They built for cooperation, for equality, for the collective good rather than individual glory. They created systems that work for everyone rather than concentrating power and resources in the hands of few. And it worked. For 1,000 years, it worked. Maybe their civilization couldn't survive the changing climate and river systems. But for that 1,000 years, they proved that another way is possible. That humans can organize themselves around peace rather than war, around cooperation rather than competition, around the common good rather than individual power. We've forgotten this. Our modern world is built on very different principles. We're taught that competition drives progress, that hierarchy is natural, that some people deserve more than others. But the Indus Valley reminds us that this isn't the only way, that humans have, at least once in history, built something different, something more harmonious, something more equal. And if it was possible once, it's possible again. Maybe not in exactly the same form. The world has changed too much for that, but the principles remain valid. Cooperation over competition, equality over hierarchy, the common good over individual glory, sustainability over endless growth. These aren't naive ideals. They're proven realities. The Indus people lived them for 1,000 years. I think about the bead maker often, this person I've imagined, who represents the millions of individuals who lived in this vanished civilization. People with hopes and fears in daily lives just as real as yours. She didn't know her civilization would be forgotten. Didn't know that 4,000 years later, we'd be excavating her city and marveling at her culture and wondering what happened. She just lived, made her beads, raised her family, bathed in the great bath, participated in the cooperative systems that kept her society functioning, probably complained sometimes about the heat or the work or her neighbors, probably laughed with friends, probably loved and grieved and struggled and celebrated. She was human, completely, fully human, just like you, and one day she died, and her children grew old and died, and their children, and eventually the city itself faded and died in that slow, gentle way that seems to characterize the civilization. But she existed. Her life mattered. The beads she made, which archaeologists have found thousands of years later, are evidence that she was here, that she lived, that she created beauty and utility in a world that has long since vanished. And you're the same. You exist now. Your life matters now. The things you create, the love you give, the connections you make. These matter. And one day, you too will fade, will vanish, will return to the earth from which you came. And that's okay. That's natural. That's the pattern of all existence. The Indus people understood this, I think. They built beautifully, but without the desperate need to make everything last forever. They lived fully, but with the understanding that their time was temporary. They created a magnificent civilization, and then, when its time was done, they let it go. Can you do the same? Can you live fully, love deeply, create beautifully, while holding it all lightly, while accepting that everything you build will one day fade, while finding peace in the temporary nature of existence rather than fighting desperately against it? This is what the vanished civilization teaches, not through words, but through the profound mystery of their gentle ending. Let go, transform, move on, trust the process. Life continues, even when specific forms of life end. Beauty persists, even when specific beautiful things fade. Meaning remains, Even when the structures that once held meaning are buried beneath sand and time, you are here now. That's enough. That's everything. And when your time comes to fade, to let go, to vanish into whatever comes next, may you do so with the same grace that the Indus people showed, without violence, without desperate clinging, with acceptance and peace. You are here now. That's enough. That's everything. And so, our journey to the lost civilization comes to its end. We've walked the streets of Mohenjo-Daro, felt the order and peace of a culture unlike any other. We met the bead maker and through her, glimpsed the daily lives of millions of people who built something beautiful and then let it go. We've explored the mystery of their vanishing and discovered that perhaps the mystery itself is the message. Not everything needs to last forever. Not everything needs to be preserved. Sometimes the wisest choice is to let go. The cities of the Indus Valley are buried now beneath earth and sand. The bead maker and all her people have long since returned to dust. The civilization that thrived for 1,000 years exists now only in ruins and artifacts and the questions we can't quite answer. But they were here. They lived. They built something remarkable. And then, when their time was done, they faded gently into memory. You too are here now, living your own life, building your own things. And one day, your time too will be done. And that's not sad, it's not frightening. It's just the way things are, the pattern of all existence. Rise and fall, grow and fade, begin and end. The Indus people understood this. And in their understanding, in their graceful letting go, they teach us still, from across, for 1,000 years, from beneath the buried cities, they whisper, let go, transform, trust. Feel yourself becoming lighter now, like sand settling, like a city slowly being buried, like a civilization gently fading. Not gone, just transformed. Not lost, just changed. Everything you are, everyone you've been, all the things you've built and loved, they matter. They existed. They were real. And now, like the Indus people, you can let go into sleep, into rest, into the gentle darkness that holds all things. The mystery remains. The civilization vanished, but the peace they found in letting go, that remains too. And it's yours now. Sleep, dear friend, like the cities buried in sand, like the people who walked away, like the civilization that vanished without a trace. Sleep and let go. Sleep and transform. Sleep and trust that all is well. Even in the fading, even in the vanishing, even in the gentle, inevitable end, all is well.